So I thought that I'd do a video about my experience of relationship anxiety, and there'll be some kind of golden nuggets in this video. It's not going to be the only video I do about relationship anxiety because it's such a big topic and more things will come to me and things I should have said in this video. And, there's so much to talk about when it comes to relationship anxiety. But I know that a lot of my clients experience it, whether you're in a relationship, which can be really hard because you think, I'm finally in a relationship. Why aren't I happy? Why aren't I calm? What's wrong with me? Maybe I'm sabotaging it. So many thoughts that come along with that. And then also when you're dating, you have a lot of pressure on yourself to feel okay and to be your best self when you're dating. That can be, very stressful as well. And then if you just know yourself to be someone who in the past has been anxious in relationships, then that can also feel like a block to creating a relationship too. So there's so much to talk about. And I really know because I've really, really, really been through it. And to the point where I was doing courses on relationship anxiety, relationship OCD. I was reading every bloomin' Reddit post you can find about relationship OCD, relationship anxiety. Honestly, I have been down every avenue when it comes to relationship anxiety, read all the books, honestly. So I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot through my own experience. And there are things that I can share with you about this. If you're going through it, I want to say that I just so deeply empathise. It's really hard. I'm going to say especially if you're in a relationship, but actually it's especially any time. But when you're in a relationship and you finally got what you wanted after such a long time and then you feel so anxious, it's really horrible. So I know, but also I'd like to say that it gets better, yay, and it's a journey, okay? So I'm going to give you some advice in this video that might help to settle you today, but it's not the end, okay? Because there's so much to say and each person's situation is very unique. I'm not a therapist and I'm only talking to you from my own experience, right? So just bear that in mind. There are so many people out there who are trained in talking about this, but all I can offer you at this point is my own experience and the lessons that I've learned. So, right, before I get into this video, I'd just like to let you know that the Conscious Creators Masters Academy is a very safe space for this kind of thing, for people who've got relationship anxiety, for them to uncover their blocks, for them to talk about whatever's coming up in relationships, for you to release old narratives and stories that are affecting the way you're experiencing relationships. All this kind of thing is talked about in the Conscious Creators Masters Academy. But if you're a creative person, there's the Conscious Creators Writing Academy, which is now going to be a thing from January. If you're a writer of any kind, whether that's a songwriter, a poet, or a lyricist, or you just like writing, then this will be a really beautiful, healthy outlet for you to process big feelings, for you to be seen, heard, and for you to be very productive and creative and release some blocks and become very abundant in whatever area of your life you want to. So both those things, links below and on my website, and you can email me if you'd like a one-to-one call about any of those things. Right, so relationship anxiety. All right, I mean, I got into this, I'll start from the relationships I'm in now, although there's a long history of me being anxious or avoidant in relationships. The two things are very similar. Anxious and avoidance are basically the same thing masked with different behaviours. The avoidant is scared of, being controlled, of intimacy, and the anxious person is scared, often has a fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, all those things. It's fear. Basically, the bottom line is both these things are fear. However it shows up for you is your way, your adaptation, your coping mechanism that you've created from a young age that's now, not serving you so much in this adult life. For you to create a connection with someone. So the thing is, don't worry, because this is just part of your evolution. This is part of your journey. You specifically are on a journey, and these are your coping mechanisms that you're learning to evolve through. And it's a beautiful journey. And at the end of it is deeper connection, deeper intimacy, freeing yourself from old narratives. And I went through so many and have been through so many dark times when it comes to relationship anxiety, feeling like I would never be connected to anyone because I had this big invisible wall around me, and it led me to very obsessive thinking, constantly only having a focus on the relationship and not being able to focus on anything else at all, feeling really like engulfed by a relationship and then rejecting it because I wanted to just feel like myself, and it felt like the only way I could feel like myself was to not be in a relationship. So with the relationship that I manifested with Johnny, I was thinking, oh, relationship anxiety is not here. That's great. But it was showing up in my anxiety about, is he texting anyone? Would he cheat on me? All of these anxious thoughts were coming up, and they were affecting my behaviour and the way that I was showing up in the relationship. And that was really stressful because I didn't want to be like that. And so I was judging myself for it. And I didn't have the knowledge that I have now about why that was happening. So, a lot of my healing came through having a coach, having someone who'd experienced it and was able to talk me through it. So I did courses, and I surrounded myself with people who got it, who understood, but also knew that this anxiety wasn't them. Because at first what I was doing was I was telling everybody about it. I was Googling it all the time. I was Googling and going on Reddit and finding other stories of people, and it gave me something to be able to go, oh, I'm not alone. Other people are feeling like this. But that became an addiction, having these kind of moments of relief. And one of the things they really teach you when you have relationship anxiety is that reassurance seeking is keeping the problem there. And it's so true. The more you're seeking reassurance out there, the more you're perpetuating the cycle instead of being with the discomfort and evolving through it, which is the hard thing to do. It's kind of like exposure therapy. Again, I'm not going to go into that too much in this video, but not seeking reassurance was one of my most difficult things that I found, because I would ring everybody up saying, I've got this feeling and I'm really anxious about this, what do you think? And ask people for reassurance, or ask my partner for reassurance, and that was perpetuating my anxiety, because as soon as you're doing something as a coping mechanism, you're also telling your brain there's a threat, there's a problem. And it's only when we start to find safety in our own body through nervous system regulation, again, this is something I do with my clients on the Conscious Creators Masters Academy, that you start to feel safe in your own body, right? The other thing that I really want to say about relationship anxiety that really helped me is to just budget in bad days. Because it's all, we think, oh, I've got to get there, I've got to be healed, I've got to be okay, I've got to be calm in this relationship. And we resist the negative feelings, or the feelings that feel bad. None of them are really negative, they just feel uncomfortable. And as a result of that, we create more resistance. When actually, if you can think in a relationship, there are so many days where you might be like, actually, I really want to be single. That's normal for you to think that every now and then. That's okay. So when you give yourself room to have these thoughts, like you give yourself room for the ebb and flow, like sometimes I want to be here really fully wholly, and then other times I don't. And I think one of the things that gets people tripped up is they think I've got to be all in. And yeah, there's some truth in that. We've got to be all in. We can't be like, oh, I'm gonna go do this, that and the other, but also be with you, because that's not fair on the other person. But emotionally, it's natural and human for us to have days where we feel like, oh, I need some space, or I am nostalgic about this other time in my life, whatever. So I think it's normal to budget in days where it doesn't feel so good. This is just what people don't say about relationships, but it's actually so important to say that actually there's good days and bad days. There's times where you love this person with everything, and then there's times where you just really don't, and they're really annoying. And I think for me, one of the things that I found really hard was feeling like I was supposed to be totally in love, like all the time. And I wasn't, because that's not sustainable or necessarily normal. Well, it's not normal. It's just, it isn't what everybody experiences all the time. And there is a honeymoon phase, and then it turns into more normality. And when that happened for me, I got really freaked out. Like, where are my feelings gone? Like what's happening? Do I still love this person? And I found it really, really terrifying. the thing is that the more that you resist what you feel, you know, whether that's whatever it is, the more you resist it, the more of a threat those feelings and thoughts become, and then the bigger the snowball gets. So I think this is what happens with relationship anxiety, is that we kind of label a thought or a feeling as a threat. Like, you know, I am scared that they're going to do this or that, or I'm scared that I don't love them anymore, or I'm scared that they're not right for me. How do I know that they're the one? I mean, this is another conversation as well. You might never know that they're the one. It's an unanswerable question. And I really battled with this one for a long time. You know, how do I know that they're the one? How do I know that I've picked the right person? You don't. You'll never know. It's one of these things that your brain will try and answer, but it's not about the one. It's about the one that you choose. Yeah, that's such a different distinction, isn't it? It's not about finding the one. It's about learning to love the one that you have chosen. And there's a difference, because nobody's perfect and you're not perfect. They're going to do things that really piss you off. And you know what? You're going to do things that really annoy them as well. And everybody at some point in a relationship will need to be forgiven. So it's about being able to be committed rather than thinking, this is perfect, I'm so happy. And then the other thing as well, I'm saying a lot here, but another thing is that, you know, being able to see that, because my mistake, I think, was that this person would make me happy. I mean, I made a classic error there. Like, I thought that, you know, having a boyfriend, he was going to make me happy, and it put a lot of pressure on him and a lot of pressure on me, and that became a really bad spiral to go down, and I neglected a lot of my own ways of being that made me have energy in life and feel like myself, and that created even more of the relationship anxiety, because suddenly all the focus is on them. So whenever we're blaming them, criticizing them, there's something in us that's trying to be right, and from trying to be right, we don't get connection. So yeah, there's so much to say about that too. I think for me, my biggest lessons in summary of relationship anxiety is to budget in the bad days, the ebbs and flows. Sometimes you're going to really feel fine and feel like you're healed and feel like everything's going well, and other days you're not, and you're going to be a bit like, oh, I want to retreat, or, you know, I'm scared. And all of that is part of the deal. And if we resist those things, then they get bigger and louder and louder. And for me, they got so loud that they took up most of the relationship. And that's what happens to a lot of people who have severe relationship anxiety, like I had. Really bad, overcrowded my whole view of the relationship. And that can happen in whatever kind of thought process you think, whether that's like, you know, not trusting them or not knowing if they're right for you or whatever. The whole thing is a protective mechanism. All of it is a way of keeping you safe. And I learned over time to see what was happening in action through, you know, working with a coach, talking to other people who've been through it. I was able to see, oh yeah, I'm doing that. I'm choosing to do that. Not it's happening to me, but I'm choosing to do that because it's protecting me in some way. And this was like such, you know, game changer. The other thing as well is that there was no big light bulb moment. There was no big, oh, I'm free of it now, I can just be happy. It was so, and it is so gradual. I even, you know, I would be totally lying to say that I'm healed, whatever the hell that is. I don't think anybody really is ever fully healed, but for me to say that I don't have bad days wouldn't be true. I have days where I really struggle. And then I have days where I'm like, oh my God, I've come so far. I can't believe it, you know. And we've been together for 3.5 years now. Well, 3.5 years soon. Nearly 3.5 years. And there's been many times where I thought, no way. How the hell are we going to do that? And all of it is not necessarily about clinging on, but about being present and being with the journey and knowing that you can trust yourself, because that's a big thing with people who get relationship anxiety, is they lack self-trust. So that was a big thing, and has been and continues to be a thing that I learned to do, is learning to trust myself that I'll be okay. the other thing is that, you know, we really get wrapped up in stories about what happens, and we expect our partner to be like, you know, some unattainable version of someone to make us feel better, and we kind of set them up for failure if we're not careful. And that's where we have to take responsibility. Healing relationship anxiety, I think, is all about taking radical responsibility for your experience, because at the end of the day, nothing means anything until we give it a meaning. And where we're trying to give meanings, negative meanings, we're also trying to stay out of the relationship to avoid that fear of abandonment, that fear of just disconnection, or that fear of being rejected, or whatever the fear is, which you can explore with a coach or a therapist or something. You know, we're trying to avoid that rather than be with it and trust ourselves that we can be with anything, and we can feel anything, and we'll be okay no matter what. And when we overcome that fear, we can learn to be more connected. I think a big thing for me has been about learning to look at the meanings that I'm giving things in a relationship. And I think for me, I was really surprised that my avoidance came out as soon as I kind of like learned to heal some of my anxiety about, will he do this, what if he does that, or whatever. Then I started to become more avoidant as a way of coping instead, which was a real surprise. Again, they are the same thing masked in different behaviours, and when one behaviour wasn't available to me, I chose the other one. So that was a real surprise. But I think, you know, I've learned that all of it is fear-based narratives where I'm making things mean something negative in order for me to protect myself. So yeah, there's I think the things that you can think about if you're going to take anything away from this video are good days and bad days. It's a journey. There's not one big light bulb moment where everything gets better and goes away. Find support. Know that relationships, in fact, are a journey and they evolve. There's many deaths and rebirths within a relationship that can build over time to greater connection. Think about your values as your foundation of your relationship, and learn to be the person that you want to be in a relationship rather than trying to control the other person. There's literally endless amounts of content that I can do on this subject. So if you would like to hear more about it, about, you know, when you're being controlling, because anxious people tend to be controlling. We tend to be the controlling ones in a relationship because we're trying to avoid pain, yeah? So we end up being controlling by, you know, asking them a lot of questions, double texting, triple texting, chasing, asking for reassurance, nagging, not nagging in a kind of negative, you're bad sense, but like as in a asking again. We don't mean any harm by it, but we are still controlling, you know, and the other person feels that and then doesn't feel free. So that's something that we've got to learn to deal with in a different way. All of these things have been very humbling for me on my journey and continue to be something that I have to challenge myself with. But yeah, it's been an amazing journey to sort of learn to take responsibility where I was putting all the blame on him and wanting him to be different. And as I've changed, guess what? He's changed. So it's really interesting. The more that you humble yourself, the more that you take responsibility. And by that, I don't mean put yourself down or blame yourself. I mean, take responsibility and ownership for your experience. Then things evolve and change and things become lighter and easier. Also taking responsibility for your mental health, for looking after yourself, for finding ways to make your life full and meaningful for you, regardless of if this person is there. Finding balance in your relationship so that you're not like this and very codependent. These things are so important, and they have been absolute game changers for me. I mean, I used to be anxious to leave Johnny for like an hour. I used to be so anxious to leave him. And now I'm like, yeah, you can go there for a week if you want, and I'll go there for a week, and I don't really think about it. And I used to be so anxious about if he'd text me back or if he hadn't, or should I ring him or should I not ring him? And all of that has gone now. I just don't. I just let it be. I just ring when I want to ring, and he rings when he wants to ring, and we see each other every day, obviously, because we live together, but there's none of that anymore. And over time, it's it's become easier and easier, you know. I've learned so much about myself, and you will too on this journey. So I hope you found this video useful. If you'd like to know anything else about the Conscious Creators, info in the link below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.